Hi all, happy holidays. I'm not doing a comedy this year. I am going to be sharing some thoughts about life in prison because I spend a lot of time there in my work, and I am not much of a shopper, so it's the thought that counts, and that's what I'm going to be giving. My first poem about prison is called Rhyme. Let me begin with prison, where for the writer doing time, it is not a crime to rhyme. There are no elitists to judge your polished style or discard your modest dream of being heard. Your word is the word of the one who already has no voice and barely a choice. For this is the scheme of things, and at least in here, doing all this time, you are free to write in rhyme. The next subject I want to talk about in a poem is healthcare. It's certainly in vogue right now as we're struggling to try and at least get a little bit of healthcare for the uninsured. But for a lot of really poor people or people who have been trapped in the criminal justice system, the only place for them to get any medical attention at all is in prison. So this poem is called The Smile. It's true that prison is a gray state of hell, but sometimes there's a touch of heaven here. That indigent old man locked in B-Block Hotel waited months and weeks for glasses and teeth. Now finally he could once again see, and for the first time in years he smiled at me. And that's true. These next couple poems are dedicated to animals, the animals in prison. We have pen puppies being trained as service dogs, stray cats, plenty of geese. Some prisons across this country also have horse programs. We have a horse program in Central Maryland. There's a very good piece called Wild Horse Redemption. It's a documentary about inmates and wild horses. And everybody who knows me knows I love horses, and they love me. This poem, though, is the next poem. This poem is about geese. It's called The Yard. It doesn't matter where you are if you're a goose. The prison grass is just as good as any meadows. Better yet, the yard is yours. The men are kind and care for you. They cast their crumbs from dawn to dusk and watch at night from windowed cells the way you fly from concertina wire to anywhere your wings desire. Next poem is called Little Puppy. Little puppy, prison is not a picnic in the park, but it may be the next best place for you, a naive lover of all things human. You lick our hands. Little puppy, perhaps you're lucky, locked in this penitentiary. In here, you will never be neglected, beaten, burned, or used for bait, or executed by the master's state. Which leads me to my last thoughts on solitary confinement, the death penalty, life without parole. I do want to say something about life without parole. There are people in this country serving life without parole for one man stealing a $2.50 pair of socks in the three-strike system. Another mentally ill man for eating a slice of pizza in California and not paying for that slice of pizza. And because of the three-strike law, he is incarcerated for life. I really hope people think about that. Think about it. The next topic, I'm just going to read something Charles Dickens said about solitary confinement, which really needs to just be abolished altogether. The only time anyone should be in solitary confinement is if they can't possibly be around other human beings. It's a horrible, horrible condition to put people in. Most people don't realize that it was actually the Quakers who came up with solitary confinement, thinking that the time spent alone would be time for reflection, time for a human being to meet God, but that's the polar opposite of what confinement does to people. And Charles Dickens said this about solitary: "The system here is rigid, strict, and hopeless solitary confinement. I believe it to be cruel and wrong. I hope the slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain, I hold the slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any torture of the body." And that leads me to one more issue here about solitary confinement. It causes mental illness. It can actually cause people who were not psychotic to become psychotic, and hopefully at some point that can be abolished once again, because at one point it was. The next situation we want to talk about is the death penalty. When it comes to the death penalty, everyone that I know is opposed to the death penalty, and that makes me grateful. And I do want to think back to the death of Stanley Tookie Williams, who in December 13th, 2005 was executed by lethal injection, and it took a long time for them to execute him. They couldn't find his veins. It was a barbaric situation, and this poem is dedicated to the memory of Tookie. Half the night disappears before the man really dies, and his executioner slips away under the blue blanket on his king-size bed, where he dismisses the dead and drops to sleep. No ghosts yet, but there's the shadow of the man in his chains, the poison forced into his veins. And finally, I want to leave with a letter to Debbie Piegler, Sister Debbie Piegler, who was born on December 27th, 1959, incarcerated in 1982, released on parole in August 2009, and died on June 10th, 2010 of cancer. Dear Sister Debbie, I am sorry you died of cancer less than a year after being paroled. I am sorry you suffered and endured such abuse, and that, aside from your shockingly unjust incarceration, the parole board put you through such grotesque humiliation. I wonder how many Americans have watched the documentary Crime After Crime, where your lifetime of enslavement is laid bare, and the relief you received in the end did not fill a thimble. Not many, I suppose. But for all who care, the document is there. What amazes me is how you freed your spirit and kept your faith and found some joy in spite of going from prison cell to cancer cell. I know you knew what the caged bird sings and why she beats her wings. And it was you who showed me how the caged bird sings. And I dedicate these thoughts to the memory of Debbie Piegler. Happy holidays. Bye.